Hey, what's up, doctor?
Nothing much. What's going on with you?
Hey, it's another Wednesday night
It is
nightcap.
another Wednesday night of Nightcap. Guys, welcome to Nightcap with Dr. Sharice Nicole and Dr. Akeem.
Hey.
We have a special treat for you all tonight. So we have had an hour conversation about it, him and I. We're going to further the conversation with you all. So jump right in, listen, tag, share, like. Get your girlfriends in, get your homeboys in, because the conversation is going to be lit. We still use lit.
I'm so removed from, I guess, yes.
And so, how was your week?
It's been a very interesting week, but we press on, you know?
We press on, yeah.
Press on. One of my pastor friends transitioned on yesterday, and it's been kind of unexpectedly. I'm just not at the age where we bury each other yet, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's not supposed to happen. He was in his early 40s. But yeah, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm trying to push this back some. I'm pretty close up on this camera. Pretty good. This week was busy.
Yeah.
I moved into my house, so I'm super excited about that. Yes, very excited about that. Having some work done in the process, countertops put in and floors and.
Listen, I told my best friend last week, one thing about buying a house is it's almost like having a child. You don't know. When you go into a store, you just start thinking, oh, I can get this. Or you'll walk in a room and say, oh, I can change this fixture. So it's a wonderful feeling, but it's also a constant process. So
it is.
If I can share anything with you as we start the show is don't try to, you got a 15, 30, whatever kind of year mortgage you got that long to put it together. Do not go broke trying to. Big shout out to the founder, the curator of NightCap, the one and only Bishop John Eric Guns himself.
Bishop. Good evening, Lillian. Hey, Bishop.
He's on.
I'm sure he is. Yes, Dr. John E.G. Ministries. He's here.
All right, let's go.
Listen, let's go right into it. So tonight, guys, we're talking about customs and culture.
Yeah.
For the Christian millennials. We had a conversation about this week. And Akeem and I agreed to some things. We did not agree. And my perspective definitely was challenged. And so we want to jump right into it. And so one of the questions you asked was, we were talking about marriage.
Yep.
And we were talking about, is it kids before marriage?
I'm confused now. You're taking me too far, too fast.
Which one? What topic were we talking about?
Let me think.
Okay.
And I'm looking crazy online. I'm trying to think.
You're not looking crazy.
About women. Is it, so we know that it's culturally accepted for women to have children before marriage, right? But I forgot who reported it that said 45% of African American women will not get married ever in life. But how do you reconcile as a Christian woman and knowing that, quote unquote, marriage is then supposed to lead to having a child, but in the absence of a mate, what does it look like for a woman who desires children?
Right.
That's customs and culture. So
that's customs and culture.
Yeah. What do you think?
So nowadays it is becoming more and more. May not make it biblically right, and I don't know exactly what the Bible says about that. That's where you can help. But when we talk about customs, back then, my grandmother was married when she was 13. 12, and had her first child at 13.
Yeah, so they didn't have all those laws. I mean, if we do a real biblical, and I don't want to start this tonight, but if we're talking about culture and customs, Mary was about 13 or 14, according to theologians, when that whole situation happened with her and the Holy Spirit and Joseph, right? But we also know that marriage then looked totally different than marriage now. And so, again, we live in this wrestle between what is morally right and what makes sense.
Yes.
Right? So what does it mean for a professional woman like a Sharice, who is a pharmacist and you just moved into a home, right? And I know you have a daughter, but what if you wanted another child and you said, I'm approaching 40 and I don't want to wait until I find a spouse, and considering all of the health risks and medical implications that can happen, but you desire a child. What does that look like for you?
Right. Wow. So I'm a woman, I'm traditional by all sense in terms of if you don't have a husband, you just don't have children. And not naturally, right? So for me, I have a daughter, so it would be unfair for me to speak to this topic for women that do not have children that want to bear their own children. But in the event that, to your point, if 45% of those women will never be married, right? I think that there are other ways to consider caring for a child outside of marriage, such as adoption or godchildren, or helping to care for that child that may be underserved or underprivileged. So there are other ways of doing it. It does not negate the fact of having your own. And ladies, I do understand there's nothing like bearing your own child, so I will not take that away from anyone that desires that. And many blessings to your womb. For me, as a professional, I'm 30 something. And so being 30 something does, it is, if I were to get married again, well, when I get married again and my spouse desires children, it's kind of like we're getting married and going straight into it. It's love, marriage, the baby in the baby carriage. We getting right into it because I'm not getting any younger. So that looks like, what am I waiting for? What am I holding on to?
I find it interesting. Let me say, first of all, I appreciate your response, but I find it interesting that you did not speak to or offer artificial insemination as an option. So are we saying that for a woman to carry, so I guess the question becomes, are we viewing the inappropriate nature of carrying a child based on the sexual act that needs to take place for her to get pregnant, or is not artificial insemination an option because that requires no man there's not a physical. I'm just trying to understand what lens we're looking at.
Okay, so you guys that just hopped on, this is going to get real heavy with me and the king. These conversations always do. So like and share, tag someone. Artificial insemination, I do agree with, and I'm going to tell you why. There was a lot of artificial insemination going on in the Bible. It happened by way of sexual act, but nevertheless it happened. It may not have been artificial per se, but it happened.
I've studied the Bible a lot. I'm confused. I've never read that chapter. Help me understand what you're saying.
When was it Abraham, man of God? When Sarah was old, was it Hagar he used?
No, that wasn't artificial insemination.
It's a form. It wasn't technology out back then.
Now, if you would have said the Holy Spirit and Mary, I would have given Abraham. He slept with that woman.
He's okay. But they used other women that had producible wombs yes. Women that could procreate. They were used in forms of surrogates to have children.
Yes,
I am not opposed to that. What I am opposed, what would, here are the benefits of women that use artificial insemination. If I'm not a black man, but here's what I would assume would be the benefits. The man wouldn't have to worry about baby daddy drama. No baby daddy.
Okay.
That man has an opportunity then or the woman has an opportunity to make decisions if she were to meet someone that lived out of town to, move around without consenting or whatever the case may be. And it allows or give that man the opportunity to say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to be that father to that child, may not be mine, but still have the opportunity. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Customs would say it is though. How my grandmothers were raised, if you couldn't have children, you just couldn't have children. Now that's going away. And I don't know if God cares, if God is the creator of all things, right? God is the creator of all things. And a child is brought about via artificial insemination. Is that then? Are we tampering with what God is doing? Like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's a theological argument, and I don't think that God is that concerned, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. But let's take a different spin, right? So you are a professional, let's see, you have a daughter already, because the question then becomes, meeting someone who is career driven but says, I do not want children.
So Lillian is on here via YouTube. And yes, many women today are focused on careers. And a lot of them don't want children. So let's go back. We can call those independent women. And this is the conversation we had about women being independent. So we'll jump into that after this. But I don't know that that's the right approach as a woman, to focus solely on a career. Now, I used to be that woman younger in my teenage years. I said I'd never want to have children because I wanted to live like a Coco Chanel life in New York and travel. And, I just didn't want children. And then I got married. I had a child, and for years I wanted.
I like how you let the people know that your child came after you got married.
Absolutely, because what I remember is first come love, marriage, then the baby. That's what I remember. Now I'm not knocking anybody how you do it, because I'm not a judge, but I just did it that way. So, but I was that woman that did not want children, but I had children. I had a child. I don't know that focusing on your career and worrying about and having children later is beneficial. One, as a healthcare professional, as women age, we experience more healthcare conditions or ailments that will prevent us from having children as readily as we would have during childbearing years. So the younger you are, the more open the wound is. So it's kind of like, why would you wait? But in the same token, you got to have a mate to procreate.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with people waiting, right? Because I jokingly say this, right? And it's partially true. I raise a whole lot of children when I pay taxes. Listen, when I saw that thing about people with kids getting $1,400 like per child for that the stimulus check, I was like,
you want to have you some kids?
Yeah, I was like, let's just one, right? Because I think people do not plan to have children, and I think when you're not financially stable, it causes an effect. It causes a struggle. So I don't think it's wrong for people to want to want to wait. I think, like anything else, that when you wait, it comes with the risk. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. I think it also speaks to the couple being conscious about their health and being able to do. I mean, Janet Jackson had a child at what, 50, 40 something years old. I think she was 40 something.
I don't know.
She was old, older rather. But Sister Lillian, since you are talking in the comments, she's taking us to the next thing about, she says women are looking for stability. Let me speak on behalf of the brothers. So are we.
What does that mean? What does stability look like for a man?
We're talking customs versus
culture.
What else do you have to offer me other than a pretty face and a body? What else?
Is she resourceful?
So yeah, let's just go with, if I am taking care of the bills, right? If I am taking care of the household, if something happens, do you have the means to at least be able to hold it together in the in-between? If I'm making the money, are you wise enough to be able to manage it? Because if not, you're a liability.
Are women liabilities to men?
Now, let me say this. I am not.
In general,
now, let me say
is
this.
a woman a liability to a man?
I want to make sure that those who are watching, that this is not gender specific. I am saying that men can be liabilities to women. Women can be liabilities to men. I am saying if someone is not adding or sustaining, then they are considered to be a liability.
So for men, adding, because the examples you gave were not of adding companionship, adding love and warmth. The first thing you went to is a quantified, objective stance, which is money. All your examples were about money.
Emotional stability and all that, that's cute, right? But we're talking about people are looking for real life stability. Like I want to make sure that you're emotionally stable, check. I want to make sure that you are physically in decent health, check. But above all those things, when people talk about stability, they're thinking about a lifestyle and a way of living.
And so women oftentimes, when Lillian says women are looking for stability, most women will say stability for them is a man that can keep a job, a man that knows how to take care of the household in terms of knowing how to manage money, pay bills. And then there's another component to stability that women often allude to, which is emotional stability, emotional support, love, consistency, loyalty is a big component for women when we talk about stability. But we had a conversation and we were talking about marriage and millennials' hesitation towards marriage and why.
Yes.
And so here's what I found, that I wanted to know what was the percentage of African Americans reared in a single parent household?
Yes.
And so per my research, it showed that African Americans, over 60% on average, 65% of African Americans are reared in a single parent household, with Asians being the least amount, averaging about 13% of, and when we say Asians, we're talking about Indian and all Asians. Okay. Now, but African Americans being the highest. When you speak on that, you can break it down, gender, male, and how many African American women are reared in a single family home, how many African American men are reared in a single family home.
Yes.
And it almost breaks down to about 50-50 with African American women, of course, because we're more populated, being the highest at about 52%, and then males being on that tail end, roughly at about 48%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the reason I research African American men are reluctant and women are reluctant to marriage. It has a lot to do with what they saw growing up in their household.
Let me sit with that real quick.
Sit with that.
I think it matters both ways. So let me be very transparent. I am a product of both a single mother and a blended household, right? So my mom was single when she had me. She was 20, fresh out of high school. My father, and I'm using the word stepfather just for the sake of conversation. My mother married my stepfather who raised me from the time I was 4 until this present day. I have a healthy relationship with my biological father, but most of what I know as a man, 90%, he took care of me. And for the first 2 years of their marriage, because my sister and I are 6 years apart, it was just me, him, and my mom, and he never, ever, to this day, has used the word stepson.
Wow.
That word doesn't exist to us. And so I oftentimes tell people I can use 1 or 2 examples. If I wanted to have a bunch of kids, right, and be this reckless guy, I could blame it on, well, my dad had one in my life and he got 5 kids. If I wanted to. But then those people who know me is going to be like, well, how is that really an excuse when you have a heck of a man as an example who raised you, took care of you,
right,
and gave you. So I'm not saying that our upbringings don't play a part. I am saying at a certain age, you have to make a conscious choice as to which one you want to do.
Wow. I do believe, I agree with you. But here's where the problem lies. Most people don't make great decisions and don't know how to make them. So because they don't know how to, and most people are not taught decision-making skills, that's a skill set. And on when you put an application, or you do any kind of resume, great decision-making skills. So that it requires practice to make great decisions, guidance, right? And because people don't understand how to do that or how to facilitate decision-making, they oftentimes lean to what they saw or how they were reared. In this case, I believe, and this is what I said to you, that a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, millennials are not getting married as readily. And there's this independent women persona because there was an independent women era at some point in the 2000s, right? You had Neo talking about Miss Independent. You had the INDEPE, something. You had that song come. She got her own car. She got her own this. You got Jamie Foxx yelling independent. You got all these men saying they want an independent woman. And so the sense of independent in millennial women has increased until it's dominated their persona, which has, to me, made the male feel not needed. So they don't marry.
So I think we have to have the hard conversation. I don't know we have the time tonight, so we might need to do a part 2, right? Mm-hmm. That it is this misconception that men are intimidated by a strong woman.
And is that a misconception? Because I've been hearing that all my life, that men are intimidated by strong women and women that make more money than them.
I think we have to define what people are considered a strong woman, because I don't know a lot of men who want a weak woman. Well, number one. Number two, I think added on to that is women can't pick and choose when they want to be independent.
What do you mean by that?
So you can't be like, I'm independent, I don't need nobody, I pay my own bills, got my own or whatever. And then when the check comes, you conveniently go to the bathroom, right? Or you independent, and then it is interesting to see and to hear, and I know a lot of successful Black women. I mean, I rock with them, I bang with them. But I also know women that are successful and accomplished and still desire men. For the first time in American history, women are making more salary-wise than men, one. Two, women are much more educated than the brothers, even in what I do as a pastor, right? Seminaries, the enrollment in seminaries the women trump the brothers, hands down. Even though many of them go back to patriarchal-led churches.
Wow.
Right? And so,
wow.
Let's just play this out for the sake of fun tonight, right? You're a pharmacist. Wow. Anybody can Google what the base salary of. I pastor a rural church, right? In the absence of additional streams of income, you would be the breadwinner. We're equally educated. We both got doctorate in front of our name. Earned at that. Right? What would that? And so I don't know that would change the fact that you as a woman would still want to be treated as independent and as accomplished as you are. You would still not want to be treated like a woman, whatever that means, right? In the sense of custom.
So, okay. So that's a good question, because Lillian said, how are we defining customs? We're defining customs by traditional practices, or a traditional way of doing things. Your grandmother, great grandmother way of doing things. That's what we're talking about when we say customs. You know, when our grandparents came up, what did they see? When our parents came up, what did they see? Millennials think differently, so we can't say what did you see coming up, because we didn't see a lot of what our grandparents and our parents saw. When we talk about culture, we're talking about a millennial, someone born 1980 and after, and who, thinks differently, or thinking outside the box in terms of how to do life. And how does the customs of how the old way or the way we used to do things, how is that conflicting with how we currently do things? So I hope that answers your question. In terms of this independent thing, Akeem, here's where I don't think that women truly want to be independent. I believe all women, let me say this, I'm going to speak for all women. I believe all women desire to be with women that want men, desire to be with men. I believe that a lot of women are not sure, one, how to have healthy relationships with a man because of all this other disappointment, all these other things. And then there's a level of expectation that women have from a man, but oftentimes are not willing to give that same level of expectation to them.
I agree. You're talking good. I was waiting for the offering plate to pass by.
So oftentimes I believe that's why a lot of women are single, and men are not willing to be in relationships with those women or be married to those women. Someone said something to me that most women don't have anything to offer but what's between their legs. And I don't agree with that. But I'm not a man. Dr. Akeem, do you agree with that statement? Don't don't pause.
Of course not. So I think that
be honest.
No. Here's that narrative. I think we have to create conversations on what it means to one have mutual respect for each other.
That's good.
Let's remove relationship. How do I view a sister in a healthy way, not objectively, right? And how do sisters view brothers in a way that we honor and respect each other in a healthy way?
I think there's a level, there's a respect has been lost. That's the issue between brothers and sisters. And when we talk about brothers and sisters, I'm specifically talking about African American men and women.
Yes. So for me, I tell you this all the time. I know how to treat a woman because, one, my father is a heck of a gentleman. My father, although him and my father and my mother shared responsibilities in our home, the bulk of it was on my father. I remember my father getting off of work at the shipyard, the Newport News shipyard, and taking on a cleaning job in office spaces while my mother was going to school at night. This is not, my father would literally, because we only had one car at the time, my mother would drive the car, my father would catch the commuter van, and we would literally ride. I would catch the bus to my grandmother's house, which was probably about 4 or 5 miles from our home. And my father would ride me on the handlebars from my grandmother's house to our house. And wow. It would probably, my daddy, if my father's watching tonight, I need my check because it was probably child labor laws because I was dumping trash. And, but then I had a sister, right? I have sisters by my biological, but I was raised in the home with my younger sister, who's one of my best friends. So I was, and yes, we fought like brothers and sisters, but me and my sister ain't never had no fist fight. It ain't never been that kind of thing because I would probably be dead, right? Because I grew up having that healthy soul, and my sister is intelligent and smart. So I don't know, I wouldn't want her to be some walkover Matt to her husband, right? So I wouldn't want that in a woman. So I'm saying, I think we have to change how we see, but I think that statement about women only have something to offer what's between their legs speaks to how we see relationships. So if the man is offering something, I go back to the original question. What do you bring to the table? I saw this meme the other day that said a woman that's paying, and I think I shared it with you for tonight, a woman that's paying $1,500 a month in bills don't have time for a man asking her what she's doing. Well, that's crazy because if you paying $1,500 a month in bills, I'm trying to understand that alone is probably mortgage and insurance. So, I mean, you bragging about paying bills that you should be paying as an adult. If you have a man or a woman, you got to have somewhere to live. You got to have something to drive. You got to eat. But if we're looking at people to rescue us or to not partner with us, then yes, you will only see the man pay the bills. And so the only thing you can do for me is cook, clean, and have my babies.
Wow. I know a lot of men that think that the only thing a woman can do for them is cook, clean, and have their babies, provide legacy.
And quiet as it's kept, I know some women that's okay with that.
There are a lot of women that's okay with that.
And here's what I'm saying. We have to be okay with whatever works for. This is the difference between custom and culture. We live in this age where I don't know the intricate details of their story, but there are very few Keisha KOs out there where your baby daddy, your husband can leave you with X amount of dollars and you triple that joint when he come home. Because a whole lot of people, male or female, would have changed their number, took that money and moved somewhere else. Right? I am saying that most of what we desire in relationships, because if you look at it, we post stuff like relationship goals without ever knowing what the intricate details is. You talk about relationship goals because they got matching cars and matching Jordans. But you don't know that man's still eating Stouffer's at night. Or she getting her head bust in. What are we really comparing ourselves to? We have to figure out. One of the best books I've ever read is 5 Love Languages.
Yes, it is.
What is your love language? What works for you?
And climb that ladder.
Yeah.
Climb that love ladder. Mm-hmm. I think that speaking to that, a lot of people do post relationship goals, not knowing the details. But what is
Come on.
What are men looking for? Because most people that are posting relationship goals, women. And a lot of men are not posting goals.
Because okay.
What are you guys looking for?
Let's break this down. We're about the same age, right?
Yes.
Let's go back.
Okay.
You have brothers.
Yes.
I have sisters, but I was again raised in the house with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to birthdays and Christmas. Girls are given easy bake ovens, Barbie doll houses, the little play baby dolls that cry with the magnetic bottles. So you have a 2 or 3-year-old girl that has a doll baby that will literally cry if you go to take your daughter into a car and she remembers that she leaves her baby in the house. She's crying like she left a real baby in there. Boys are given G.I. Joes. I know not now, but I'm just saying years ago. G.I. Joes, guns, tools. Women were raised to cater and to care. Men were raised to fight and fix.
That's good.
So already,
that's good.
At 5 and 6, you got a little girl that's making hamburgers out of Play-Doh. Come here, taste this, daddy. Here, mama, come sit down and have a tea party. They got to have somebody with them, right? They are marching Ken and Barbie down the aisle, kissing and married in this big old house. The brothers are playing video games, shooting, killing, playing basketball, absent of women.
Wow.
I am saying. And most of the ways in which we were introduced to women as men were in supportive roles. He plays basketball or football, she's in the stands. He's an athlete that's failing in school, she's the tutor. That he needs to graduate and falls in love as a result of her being his tutor.
Or the football player that falls in love with the cheerleader.
With the supportive role. Wow. I am saying that women get married when it's the right. I was talking to Dr. Bree, my sister, the other day, and I have this theory, and I think it is absolutely accurate. Women get married when it's the right person. So, Dr. Sharice, you have a list of 10 things, right? And most women will analyze or prioritize, rather, what. So he has to make this kind of money. He's nice. He looks this way. And women will, on a list of 10, start analyzing depending on what stage and age they're in. Well, at 35, my time is getting there, so maybe looks don't look as, it's not as important.
Mm-hmm.
If he meets 6 out of those 10 things,
you win.
I'm gonna get him while I'm on the hook. He on the hook. I may not get this again. A brother can be with the woman that is whatever, and if it's not the right time, he will pass her up. And that's why you see people be like, how in the world he ended up with her? Because one day he woke up and said he was ready, and he chose who was available.
Wow.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying theory has proven himself, which is why we can see women And if you just think about 5 of your friends that are married, you would not have put them with the person that they married,
Would
male
not.
or female.
Would not.
As a matter of fact, if you like me, a real friend, you'd be like, how, make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
Because for women particularly, he was the one that met half of what, and I'd rather have somebody, right? So you have a Christian woman who says, he loves me, he takes care of me, he protects me, but I'm gonna deal with the fact that he don't know Jesus, because I can negotiate that. That's gonna come along.
So she thinks.
A brother gonna be friends with all 5 of y'all in the young adult ministry and choose one of y'all when it's time.
Wow.
And the 4 other ones that thought they had a chance gonna get mad.
Because they're gonna want to know why he chose her.
Why he chose her.
Why her?
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, there is no valid explanation. Yeah.
No valid.
She's the one that did not pressure him. See, the worst thing that a woman can do is want a man to be ready when he is not ready.
You know, my uncle used to tell me a long time ago, he said it best, and we're talking about relationships, but my uncle used to say this: when a man says that he doesn't want a child, it is not his responsibility to make sure he doesn't have any. It's your responsibility to make sure you don't give him any, to whatever extent that means. Same analogy when we talk about relationships. If a man is not ready, it's your responsibility, not his. It's going to be his, but to make sure you don't put him in a position where he has to choose. Because what happens is you become the woman that the man settles for. Anytime you settle for someone, you don't treat them the way they deserve.
Right.
So now you come out more damaged than you were going in. Because you already damaged going in when you pressure him, not understanding that you were not understanding that and respecting his decision and having enough, being okay with walking away, having enough confidence in your decision to say, okay, if you're not ready, I'm gonna move on, and if this is the person, then, hey, I'm gonna take that, and if I'm single when you're ready, then maybe we'll explore. But a lot of women won't do that. They want what they want, so they pressure.
Yep. I joked with one of my ex-girlfriends the other week, maybe about a month ago. We were mad young, and she wanted, I'm like, how your clock ticking this young? Like, I want to be married, blah, blah, blah. And she got with a guy, got married, and she's divorced. And I was like, yeah, see, you just would have waited. Like, I might would have, like, you can't, you got to give people the same way you're ready. He may not be the same way he's ready. You may not be. And I think you got to you cannot force people into relationships. I would not want to be with someone who I felt manipulated me into being with them.
So is it then selfish? Because you really have to think about it. Well, she has a choice to go, right? She obviously has a choice to leave. He's not holding her hostage. But he understands that this woman wants to be with him, and he decides to wait. Some men will wait years. We're talking 10, 12 years. And so is it then selfish of the man and or the woman? She wants what she wants, he wants what he wants, and nobody's giving it. Is it selfish or is it self-preservation?
I think it's both and I'm saying that neither one need to exist. I'm saying that, Sharice, you have the right to say, I don't want to be with someone for 5 years without marrying them. But the man also has the right to say, okay, I'm not there. And here's what we got to do. It doesn't make you right and it doesn't make him wrong. We just got to the fork in the road and we both have to make a decision. And how do we respect each other's decision without forcing an ultimatum, right? I think it's okay to say, this is where I am. Where are you? What is not okay is for you to say, listen, I've been with you for 2 years, and if you don't put a ring on it, I'm going to leave because blah, 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 blah. Okay. Because see, now you don't know what he's internally, and the average person say, well, if he wanted you, he would step up. No, you're forcing him or her to make a decision.
So it then becomes about approach. How you strategically approach the subject to get an understanding of where the person is.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about, and why do you want to be married? Why do you want a relationship? Why are you forcing me to make it? Because again, it is your choice, right? So you're forcing me to feel and see what you're saying, and I may not see it. Right? Because the same women that say he should be ready when I'm ready or whatever, he should know what he wants. If a man asks you to marry you out of time or whenever you feel like you're ready and you say no, you expect him to ask you again. Then let me just go on record. I'm not built that way.
Once you tell me no, woman of God. Understood.
It's a highway to none can walk up there. I'm
wow.
comical, but I'm saying I think we have to respect each other's opinions and not make it a right or wrong. It's about hearing what each other's heart is.
Wow. That's good. I want to switch the subject to, should a man pay all the bills?
You talking about the dinner bill at dinner? You mean dinner and drinks? What are you talking about?
We're talking about household bills. Since we're talking about women wanting to be married and people wanting to be married, or you're giving people ultimatums. So you get in that marriage. Who should the man be paying all of the bills?
In a perfect scenario.
Mm-hmm. Come on, man of God. Yes. Okay, in a perfect scenario.
In a perfect scenario, I think the man should carry the bulk of the weight.
What do you mean?
Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that looks like, okay.
However, I think this is situational. Because if the woman is the majority breadwinner, let's use the language. If she is the breadwinner, then it would make no sense for the man to pay all the bills because he may not have it.
So, custom was whoever, regardless of who made the most money, the home was always purchased based on what the husband made.
But we're talking about in the 50s and 60s when women did not work, they could not have any property, right? So the only thing the woman did, I remember when my grandmother died. My grandmother died my freshman year of high school. That was 1999. In her program, it said she was a homemaker. That's what it said. And I remember then thinking, what in the world? Because I would see it over and over again growing up in church for African American. She was a homemaker. Women took pride in raising children and taking care of the home. Right? But men earned the income. They were the breadwinners. Now that is not the case. So I am saying whether it's 50-50, 60-40, whether he pays the mortgage, she pays the utilities, I think it needs to be
some form of contribution.
Whatever, because here's my question. Let's just say if I'm paying all the bills, what you doing with your money? So I'm supposed to go to work.
Her money. She should be saving it into the joint account. She should be taking care of the children, whatever they need, buying food. If the husband say, babe, we need this done. If he's paying all the bills, there should be no reason why when he comes to her and says he needs, she doesn't have. That's how I look at it.
I think expectation without communication leads to confusion. I'm saying it needs to be said up front. Who's the best with money? Who makes the best financial decisions? What are our financial goals? bills, right? Because I've seen people do a couple. I know people who have a joint account for bills, and whatever their portion is, they put in, and then they have individual accounts, whether they save together. They save as a couple. I'm not saying, I don't want to get into what's right or wrong. I think, again, it's situational. But I do think that there should be some kind of contribution because, again, if, to your question, the man is paying all of the bills, then what is the one? So I'm supposed to have a heart attack and work all this overtime to pay for all the bills while you go and get bottomless mimosas on Sundays with your girlfriends. And I got to come home and eat Stouffer's?
Ooh. And she's not cooking?
I gotta come home. You got a bonnet.
You gotta come home and you gotta eat Stouffer's lasagna with garlic.
Bonnet on. With a bonnet on. Watching Real Housewives.
With a bonnet on.
Listen, I was raised. I tell people I believe in gender roles, and I say that unapologetically. I don't think a woman should have to worry about her oil changing. Her, if again, when you're married or when you're living, however what that looks like, right? Getting tires changed, rotated, cutting the grass, taking out the trash. But I also think that I know a lot of brothers who are the better cook than their spouse. Right? I'm saying whatever works for the two of you all. But I do believe that there should be give and take.
There definitely should be reciprocity. And oftentimes people have expectations that they're not willing to give. So people want what they're not willing to give.
I've seen my mother, who's the better cook. Me and my sister would almost cry when my dad had to cook. I mean, I love my dad, but cooking, he cooked a couple of things, like one or two things. Okay, when it was his turn and my mom was at school and she didn't cook like early that morning before she left, we knew we were going to Wendy's or Hardee's or KFC because my dad just was not, or order pizza. But I grew up seeing my mom come home from work, go in the bathroom, freshen up, change clothes, and come out and cook a meal.
Wow.
While my sister and I did our homework, and my dad was relaxing or coming down because he would get home later. And I'm not saying she didn't complain, but she never let the fact that she worked 8 hours a day stop her from being a wife and a mother. But vice versa, I also saw my dad, when he come home, I need to go to the store and get some, or he would cut the grass or wash the car or change the oil, or I am saying that they had an understanding that worked for them.
They had a partnership.
They had a partnership.
And do you see that it's becoming less and less the ability to form partnerships?
Yes, here's the reason why.
Okay.
My parents just celebrated 34 years of marriage. No, 32 years, right? And I remember asking them on their anniversary, how in the world do you stay with the same person 32 years? Mm. You wake up, I've seen them, right? Like, this is not some strangers. I've seen them. And my dad said something as a man. My dad is a man's man, right? He was like, because she's my friend. Even when I'm mad with my wife, my friend and I still get along.
Wow.
On top of that, my parents, everything that they've accomplished, they did together. I remember us living with my grandmother for a while, for a short period of time, while they were buying the home. If I said that to you right now, Sharice, you want me to move in with your mama because you want to buy a house? I'm not doing that. But
don't speak for me, man of God, because I had to move in with my friend again.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying
most women in general. Right. I'm saying.
But everything they have, they've accomplished together. I think what our generation has faced, you got your house that you like, I got mine, and we're not gonna bow to each other.
Wow. Pride.
Yeah.
So then, is the woman out of order?
I can't. Now you're not gonna have all these women in my inbox saying that I'm
No,
a
jumping there,
patriarch.
jumping. Is the woman then out of order?
I don't want to say out of order because I think it's situational again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you got to pick and choose when you want to lead, man. I'm saying as women, right? Going back to this whole independent thing. You can't tell me you want to lead, and then when I lead, you tell me, well, I don't want to do that. Well, I'm confused because here we are.
Mm.
And I think vice versa. And we're not talking about a dictatorship or I remember I was doing this wedding for this young couple our age. And the bride asked me to take out the word submit and when it says love and obey. And I was like, what do you want me to replace it with? And she had no other option. She just said, I don't like the way that sounds because we're progressive thinkers. And I said, but okay, the Bible says, we're Christians. It says, wives, submit to your husband. Then it says, submit to one another, right?
It did.
But then here's the difficult part for the brothers, because we got a double entendre. You got to love your wives. It has nothing to do with understanding her. See, this is why I take issue with people like Steve Harvey, who writes a book, Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man. Women can't think like men. Men can't think like women.
But the Bible did say, you may not understand her, but the Bible is very clear about dwelling with her in understanding.
Yeah, it talks about long suffering too. Go ahead. I mean, if we're going to believe the whole Bible, we got to believe the whole Bible. Long suffering.
Oh my God.
It says, love her as Christ loved the church, and you see what happened to him.
He gave his life.
And the women went on about their business.
And the woman, but he...
And the women still ain't get saved. The man gave his life. That wasn't good enough. Lord
have mercy. Oh my God. So, guys, we will further this conversation next week. We're gonna have a part 2, and we'll probably bring on some guests to share their insight. But we wanted to kick it off with just me and Dr. Walker, because, like I said, this is ongoing. Custom versus culture for the Christian millennial, what it looks like. Are we out of order? Are we out of the will of God? Does God really care? You know,
hold it now. Now let me say this. Now I may get in trouble, but I stand on this. We cannot change God's order. Everything that God does in order.
Does.
I believe in partnership. I believe in marriage. I believe that when you're single, you ought to be like Paul and live your best life and give it all. But the Bible does say that when we look at the creation narrative, I don't care how you slice it up, the directive was given to Adam. And it was, notice this, right? And we can argue that Adam was doing whatever. We can raise a question about why was Eve uncovered and why she was by herself. But nothing happened to Eve when she ate. It was when Adam, and here's how long we've been disrespecting each other.
Wow.
That instead of him manning up and saying, I messed up, he then says, the woman you gave me.
Like I didn't ask for. You get right.
I didn't ask for her. I was minding my own business. You gave it to me. Instead of covering his wife, he threw her under the bus.
Oh, that's good.
And they both got put out the garden. And since then, men and women have been playing this game. A woman sees how much can I get him to give in. And the man is saying, I'm going to give in, but then I'm going to blame you. So she's going to say, I'm on birth control because I want the child. He's going to say, I ain't seen her take no pill the whole 6 months we've been together. I'm going to shoot up the club. And then when she get pregnant, now I'm going to say,
you say you was on birth control.
But I could have stopped at 7-Eleven and bought some condoms.
Wow.
Or said no.
I'm
saying we've got to go back to restoring respect for each other before we talk about relationships. How do you view, as a Black woman, how do you really view Black men? From your brothers to your father to your uncles, what man has damaged you that you are suspect of every man that approach you? And likewise with brothers, how do we view women?
I know a lot of men I know a lot of women that just have negative views, men that have negative views. Like, how do we restore that?
I think we got to start having the conversation. Because until we respect each other.
Conversation bring restoration, or does action? Like, does someone have to see it? Because if someone never sees it, how can, like, if all they've experienced is a certain type of has been negative, and we have these conversations and they're like, I've never experienced that. How can one get restoration if they've never experienced what we're talking about?
I know we gotta go. I can't remember what celebrity it was. It may have been a year ago now. Maybe, I know it was in the height of the pandemic because all we had to do was sit in the house and post memes.
Mm-hmm.
Some celebrity, his daughter was sitting on his lap. His daughter was like 12 or 13. And there was nothing sexual, again, about. And I remember people going off, oh, she's too old. And it was like almost 50-50. Some people saying there's nothing wrong with it. It's his daughter. The other people saying, you know, she too grown. She don't need to be sitting on his lap at that age. And I'm thinking, depending on how healthy or unhealthy your upbringing is how you interpret that. That is something wrong with a 12-year-old girl sitting on her daddy's lap. That ought to be the safest place for her.
That ought to be the safest place for her.
Ought to be, right? Is the operative word. Should be. But then the flip side is, if he wasn't doing something for his daughter, I'm saying we got to go back. So we got
to finish that. If he wasn't doing something,
if he wasn't affectionate, it would be, oh, you know, you're not doing enough for your daughter, or you're not doing something. And it's the age-old thing about brother to brother. We can't hug each other and tell each other that we love each other without it being gay. Mothers and daughters, we got the old thing, it can't be two women at the kitchen at the same time. What? As a people, I'm saying, before, I would argue that half of people are not even ready to be in a relationship.
Wow.
Because until we do the hard work of the heart, right?
Matters of the heart.
Yeah. I know we got to go. This has been amazing.
This has been absolutely amazing. Listen, guys, we have part 2 next week. Join us again, 9:30. Me, Dr. Walker, and special guests will be on. We will be furthering this conversation about custom and culture for the Christian millennial. Again, like, share, tag, okay?
Put it in your reminder right now, next week, 9:30 Eastern time.
Eastern time, honey, we coming in. And I'm going to bring some more statistics because I've been doing some research. Thank you, Miss Lillian, for tuning in. You had some great questions, so join us next week. We would love to answer a lot of the questions that you have. And it is a great research topic. She mentioned that. Another young lady did as well. This would be a great research topic. So I'm going to bring my numbers. Ladies, bring your numbers. Fellas, bring your numbers.
Bring your friends.
And your friends.
Yeah,
bring your statistics and your friends, because we would love to have this chat. Until next time.
1 week from today.
Week from the day. Who going to kick us out? Who going to?
You, because I'm still learning. I'm still in new. I'm new orientation.
Bishop is not here today. And me and him normally do this little our little outro, but me and Akeem are gonna attempt it tonight. So you ready?
Yeah. I can follow the instructions.
Bye guys. See y'all next week at 9:30.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.